One of my favourite scientists is Henry Cavendish. Even though he was part of the rich dukes of Devonshire, that family, and incredibly rich, he went to Cambridge to study natural sciences, or natural philosophy as it's called. But he had a very curious condition in that he could hardly talk to anybody. So when it came to his Viva exam after 3 years of study, he fled Cambridge rather than sit in front of the examiners because he was petrified of them.
So again, I don't really know about any of these associations, but he was definitely around a crowd of people who were heavily involved with all of these Hermeticist studies, who in turn were all at these prestigious universities like Cambridge, Christ's College, etc. And you can see that to this day, at these very same universities, they have a lot of Freemasonic artwork and motifs, especially these checkerboard floors in the library and in the dining halls. And Christ's College is also where Charles Darwin and John Milton attended, along with Sacha Baron Cohen and John Oliver, to bring it to a more pop culture reference. So a lot of people have passed through here, and you can see that they have a nice picture of Francis Bacon up on the wall in the back left on the bottom right picture. And Francis Bacon is huge in all of these occult Hermeticist philosophy. So whoever goes to these universities pursuing worldly, earthly things and great wealth and finance, well, they would be profane. They would still be of this dualistic checkerboard nature. But the ones looking to the above, they might be selected for these esoteric societies. I'm not sure how that really works, but it would seem to be consistent with everything that we've read. And you can see the top right is the Wren Library, where I believe Newton's works are held. And out of those 109 works, the vast majority were alchemical books. And if Cavendish was very familiar with Newton works, I'm pretty certain he would have noticed a lot of these alchemical elements to it. And another thing that's very interesting is he is pictured giving the Masonic hand sign, which is often called the hidden hand, but it is the sign of the master of the second veil, according to Duncan's Masonic Ritual and Monitor on page 237. Now, some people will say that they just did that to hide their hand because it was difficult to paint them, but we know that there are exoteric and esoteric explanations to all symbols in Freemasonry, so perhaps that hard-to-paint hand is simply one of the exoteric ones for the profane. So if this is a coincidence, I don't know, but it's very interesting how a lot of his contemporaries were heavily involved in these things, and he was going to a university, which is where a lot of this stuff flourished, and he was studying Isaac Newton, who was all about the alchemical chemistry, and that is what Cavendish was. And yes, of course, that works in the material world, but it's interesting how all of these guys were deriving these concepts from scriptures and hidden meanings in all of these theological texts. Now again, this doesn't prove anything. I don't know if he was initiated into the mysteries or reading all these things, but it seems he was very secretive because he would only communicate with a housekeeper using daily notes. And so maybe he was a guy who liked to keep these things secret. I don't know, but I think there is enough reasonable doubt here to suggest that he must have been exposed to some of these things on a fairly profound level. But the fact that the most popular portrait of him is this Masonic hand sign, so I just think that's a bit strange.
But he was one of the most brilliant scientists of that 18th century.
Okay, great. So he is the only person, apparently, to have come up with an experiment to prove gravity, which I think is based on two objects of mass will be attracted to each other, and that's to prove gravity. But apparently, the only reason I looked into this is because I was having an argument with somebody online. They were trying to tell me gravity is just a known fact, where I was just saying it's not, and this is all they ever tell you. So I felt obliged to have a look into it, and apparently this experiment has never been replicated, just like all experiments that we've been given to prove one theory after another to prove the globe Earth. This is just another example of some outlandish story, groundbreaking experiment that revolutioned and just changed the world and backed up a theory. And yeah, so I was trying to find this experiment being replicated and demonstrated. So I think I found the video, so let's have a watch.
Towards the end of his life, he did a crucial experiment, which is represented by these lead balls. At the back of it, he had a big garden shed, which might seem like the size of my house. And in it, he had 2 lead balls, like this, suspended from the ceiling. Only this is not to scale. This is, I mean, lead balls. Now, the real problem is that he wanted to measure the attraction between 2 objects due to gravity. In other words, there's a gravitational attraction between you and me, or between me and this lead ball.
So gravity, which is a theory, and was only invented because they said that the Earth spins, and it's needed to explain why things don't go flying off the spinning Earth. And as far as I know, this is the only so-called experiment, like this chap's explaining, that gravity, according to them, is all objects of mass are pulling towards each other. And so this experiment is supposed to demonstrate that. So let's see.
So he had to be a long way away to look at the experiment, otherwise he'd interfere with it. So he had an aperture, a place where he looked through, and he put a telescope out there, and he stood outside in all weathers, and he was in his 60s doing this, staring through the window to take his measurements over a year. There's another set of lead balls inside there. This experiment really is very difficult to get to work, and a technician has sawed it apart because he got so frustrated.
Yeah, I don't think I need to say much else, do I? The technician got frustrated, so he sawed it apart because it doesn't work. Brilliant. So if you're having a debate with anybody about gravity, okay, and they try and throw this in your face, just send them to this video. Cavendish experiment, 60 symbols. This is such a good experiment that they can't even replicate it without taking a hacksaw to it.
Hey folks, how you doing? We're looking for a replication on the Cavendish experiment here. So we've got our torsional balance with just a piece of wire suspending this metal rod here with 2 weights on either side. And I've been letting this come to rest over a long period of time and doing just really fine adjustments, trying to get it perfectly still.
We're then going to add weights at bowling balls for masses near the 2 ends of the rod and try and get that gravitational pull to cause this whole thing to twist. So first thing we need to do is establish our baseline. What kind of motion are we seeing with this thing without the interaction of the bowling balls on this? I've been letting this thing calm down all day, and it still isn't perfectly still, but it's really, really close. So I'm just going to watch for a little bit, and you guys get the benefit of high speed. I'm going to be sitting here bored as heck as I watch this little laser goes back and forth. So we got a laser here bouncing off a mirror on the rod and then falling onto the ground right here. So you can see that in the video. It looks like, yep, I think we're okay. And that's just going back and forth a little bit. I've got the meter stick to provide a point of reference so we can see the motion of this without the bowling balls. And then we'll put them in place and see if we can observe some noticeable changes. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. Alright, so let's see how this thing goes. I'm going to get a clock in the picture too so you can see just how dedicated I am, how much time I'm sitting here watching this little laser go back and forth a few times. I'm going to put some marks on the floor so we have a baseline mark so we can see any differences there.
Well, it looks like we're not quite as steady as I was hoping. We still are seeing some shiftings.
So it's oscillating back and forth, but it's changing the range over which it's oscillating right now. So I think I better let this one sit for a little while and come back to it first thing tomorrow morning after it's had the whole night to settle down. Hopefully it doesn't get bumped between now and then, and we'll see if we can get some more at that point. Cross your fingers for me. Hey folks, we're back. It's the next day, and I've got this thing pretty stable, or at least it has been. I've been literally tiptoeing around the room to try and avoid moving air as much as possible. So we are looking for such a small amount of force with this, it just has to be so sensitive that even little tiny disturbances can disrupt it. I put a little paper down, make the mark easier to see. It's graph paper, which makes it easier for me to tell when it's moving and when it's not. So I'll give you the benefit of the high speed here, and then mark the current motion of the laser light here as it goes back and forth. And then once we kind of get an idea for the range of motion, hopefully fairly small range of motion, we'll put the bowling balls in place and see how that range changes over time.
Boy, I'll tell you, one thing that is really frustrating about this experiment is just how sensitive this equipment is.
This experiment really is very difficult to get to work, and a technician has sawed it apart because he got so frustrated.
What is really frustrating about this experiment is just how sensitive this equipment is.
It's really frustrating.
Because he got so frustrated.
Right before I started the video, I watched this thing go back and forth 4 times, and it was going over about a distance like this. I didn't do anything except walk over to the computer to turn on the recorder, and now we have at least twice as much oscillation here. So, boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here. But hopefully, we have sort of a consistent middle point in here, and we can watch how that middle point in the oscillation changes over time. Back to the high speed for your benefit. Okay, well, let's call it there. So we do see some swinging back and forth and some variation in how far this thing is swinging, but it looks like we're keeping a center that's right around this area. Right around this area. Right around this area.
So even though we have oscillation around that point is pretty consistent. A little bit of uncertainty on that, but we're not going to require too much certainty on that number, hopefully, to begin with. So next step, I'm going to tiptoe super carefully, super slowly over to get the bowling balls and place them next to our apparatus, and then we're just going to let it run for a while and see what our new center of oscillation is. I'm going to put the bowling balls so that it should cause this bar to twist in this direction, which means we should shift our center from here over in this direction somewhere. So hopefully I can manage to walk 10 feet and place 2 bowling balls without causing much uncertainty in the results, but we'll just have to see. It appears that we're actually exceeding our previous range, or very close to it right now, and this is a very sensitive system. Well, let's see what we can do.
I think my best course of action here is just to remove myself from the situation entirely and see if we can get this thing to oscillate on its own without interference from me. It looks like I've already caused a little disturbance in this, and maybe the fact that we're seeing this get so far over to the right, that may actually be more of a result of me just moving nearby this thing than those 2 bowling balls in place. So we'll have to watch what happens over time with this. I'm just going to let this run. You guys get the high speed.
Well, it's been about 10 or 12 minutes of me sitting quietly in the corner trying not to screw anything up, so let's see where we're at with this. I'll give you guys the benefit of the high speed again, I'll make a few more markings to see where our new center is and how it compares to the old center.
Well, clearly my interactions have caused a bigger swing back and forth, but it also looks like our center has shifted. So right around this area. Right around this area. We'll make some measurements in just a minute to verify that, but it looks like we have caused some kind of a shift as a result of including those bowling balls. So let's wait to make the final conclusion until we've seen a few more swings back and forth, get a few more trials worth of data on here, but I think we're looking good here. We may actually have one that worked out. Right around this area. So I wasn't super careful when I made the marks about starting my mark at the same spot where the laser started, which I should have been.
you know, I did kind of draw on top of the laser, so I'm just going to put a piece of string down, tape it right underneath the very center point of that torsional balance, and then make an arc, and then we can kind of mark from there and make some measurements of center point and how that shifted over time. So let's get that, that all marked up, and then we'll see where we're at, how much of a change we actually observed on this.
So far, looks really good. Looks like we actually did observe a change on this, so score. Thank goodness we already made the measurements. My tie brushed against this, and look how much it changed already. So sensitive, oh my gosh. And we end up with just this little tiny pivot, but you know, definitely a noticeable when we're careful enough. You know, right around this area. But
it's really frustrating.
Because he got so frustrated.
Right before I started the video, I watched this thing go back and forth 4 times, and it was going over about a distance like this. I didn't do anything except walk over to the computer to turn on the recorder, and now we have at least twice as much oscillation here. So, boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here. But so far, looks really good. But
well, it's been about 10 or 12 minutes of me sitting quietly in the corner trying not to screw anything up. So let's see where we're at with this.
Well, clearly my interactions have caused a bigger swing back and forth. But boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here. But noticeable shift as a result of the gravitational force, not from the Earth, not from the moon or the sun, but from 2 bowling balls. Boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here, but you know, right around this area. But well, looks like we're not quite as steady as I was hoping.
Because he got so frustrated.
Cavendish experiment, pretty clever. Well done, Cavendish.
So, flat earthers say that there's no proof of gravity, even though
Siphons prove gravity. Weight is the measurement of gravity. Water level proves gravity. Atmospheric pressure change by elevation proves gravity. Water pressure by depth proves gravity. Tides prove gravity. The zero-G aircraft proves gravity. The orbit of satellites proves gravity. Even the vacuum of space proves gravity. Blood rushing to your head when you do a handstand proves gravity.
It is stupid to believe that as it is to be mentally brain dead and think that water is one thing, steam is another thing, and ice is another. Well, we got water here and steam here and ice here, and there's 3 different things. It's like, no, asshole, they're all water. There's no such thing as an autonomous field modality known as gravity. It's dielectric acceleration. Magnetism, that's the loss of inertia. The only thing that actually gives volume to the entire universe is magnetism. Anyway, I could make like 1,000 videos on this, and still about that many people would get it.
but there is one test that not only proves gravity, but is used to measure its strength, and flat earthers hate it.
It's really frustrating.
The Cavendish experiment.
But
The purpose of this experiment is quite simple. Measuring the gravitational attraction between 2 dense bodies suspended from a string or a wire, and 2 higher density bodies static to the structure or the floor. The density of the bodies and the torque of the string are known and measurable. The purpose of the test is not to prove the existence of gravity, but rather accurately measure its strength. Therefore, the experiment will not function without gravity. Many flat earthers perpetually state that the Cavendish experiment has never been reproduced. That's simply not true. You can recreate the Cavendish experiment with simple materials and some patience. Or you can even buy kits with highly accurate precision measurements and materials. I'm going to do mine in a rather less expensive way, using materials that I got thanks to the people in my super chat, putting your donations to work.
Well, looks like we're not quite as steady as I was hoping. But
It needs to be said that the Cavendish experiment was not designed to just get balls to attract, but to find an equilibrium between the strength of the attraction and the torque of the string, creating a near perpetual oscillation, from which calculations could be made. But since this demonstration was about displaying gravity itself, I only did it to have the bodies attract.
Y'all have a nice day.
Oh my god.
boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here. But
The Cavendish experiment. What an absolute shit show this is. For anyone to put their name to this experiment is a joke and an embarrassment. So I've just completed my first Cavendish magic show experiment. I actually encourage you all to do this experiment for yourself. By doing it yourself, you get an extra insight into the shit show that is the Cavendish magic experiment. Anyone claiming this shit show proves anything is a fraud, straight up. Before we look at my experiment, I want to take you into the mind of a mad glober trying to prove something using a completely flawed experiment protocol. Let's hear what this mad glober has to say about his Cavendish magic show.
Okay, so twice now I've rung this, and both times it's come to rest at a position other than its equilibrium position, but both times I've had some inherent motion in the system. As you see in the time lapse, there was some slight swinging in the rod, although that's kind of a good thing because it's another proof is that this has come to rest at that position and is no longer swinging, which means that the force holding it there, in fact just off a bit, because
Did you hear that? He states that he could not get the beam to stop moving. And guess what? That's what I found as well. And guess what? That's also what Sly found, and he hints at this in his comments when he rightly says that this experiment requires extreme patience.
really frustrating about this experiment. Because
he got so frustrated.
Yeah, because the damn beam never actually stops moving. When I was doing mine, a car would drive past and the damn bar started moving again. The constant and unstable movement of the beam is very frustrating and it will never sit still. So let's take a peek at my experiment. You'll see here that I've modified the protocol in an effort to get the beam to stop moving. After hours and hours and looking through the time-lapse footage, you quickly realize that even when this beam stops, just wait for another 30 seconds and off she goes again. A creak in the house, a car driving by, someone 500 meters away sneezing. Okay, I'm exaggerating now. So what Sly and the idiot before has done is waited for hours and hours for the damn beam to stop moving. Well, it never stops, but it does stay still for long enough to place that bowling ball or big rock next to the beam. Just wait 30 seconds and watch the magic happen. The beam just starts moving again, whether the bowling ball or rock is there or not. Guarantee it will always start moving again. So from a video point of view, it is ridiculously easy to fake this. You could video the beam coming to a complete stop, fool everyone, quickly place the heavy objects next to the beam, wait 30 seconds, and hey presto, it looks like the beam is attracted to the heavy objects. Complete fraud, Complete magic show, complete waste of everyone's time. Shame on you, Globers. This one reeks of desperation. You're better than this. Okay, with the two identical mass objects on either side, the 1 litre milk carton should hover in the centre. But it doesn't. It appears to have a tendency to lean to the right. That's interesting, isn't it? If it has a tendency, then we can predict where that weight is next going to move. And that's the magic trick right there, folks. It's very easy to predict, once the beam stops for a couple of seconds, where its tendency is going to be. And that's how the clowns doing this magic show are making the weight appear to be attracted to the larger weight object. Boy, to put your name to this as proof of anything is embarrassing and 100% fraudulent. Alright, so watch now as the beam starts rotating the wrong way once we have the heavy objects in play. Remember, it should be rotating towards the heavy boxes of paper, but it goes the wrong way. So why is that? Well, remember how the beam had a tendency to go that way. At this point, it was simply up to me. Do I place the heavy objects to the right and claim I've just proved gravity? Or do I place the heavy objects on the left and prove what a load of garbage this experiment is?
We'll make some measurements in just a minute to verify that, but it looks like we have caused some kind of a shift as a result of including those bowling balls. So let's wait to make the final conclusion until we've seen a few more swings back and forth, get a few more trials worth of data on here. But I think we're looking good here. We may actually have...
The heavy objects are simply getting in the way of the tendency for the beam or the rod to go in one direction. So, how can we make sure we are not duped here? My advice is to ask for at least 30 minutes of footage after the rod stops moving. And make sure it stays dead still for at least 2 minutes after placing the heavy objects next to it. But look, even then, it would be easy to edit the footage and still fool you. This one is busted, folks. Thanks for watching.
Boy, there's a heck of a lot of variance here, but score.
But there is one test that not only proves gravity, but is used to measure its strength. And flat earthers hate it.
Let's beat that. He went 47-1. Jump. Wide receiver, 6'2", 203. What? 47-1. How about 47-1 in the time for mark right there?
But is used to measure its strength. but is used to measure its strength.
Don't believe in poverty. Don't believe in fantasy.
But is used to measure its strength.
Don't believe, cause a theory's all it is. It's never been proven, but they teach it to the kids.
But is used to measure its strength.
However, you could measure the period of oscillation of this, and from that get all the properties of the wire, the torsional constant. And that enabled him to measure big G, the gravitational constant, to an accuracy of 1%. And nobody improved on that for 100 years. And nobody improved on that for 100 years.
Well, I couldn't really find one. I actually had a lot of trouble finding one. Actually, one of the physics professors that was praising him had a little model that he held up and was joking that his TA couldn't get it to work and got frustrated with it and gave up. And I'm thinking to myself, over 200 years later, we don't have models of this, or repeats of this experiment all over the place that determine big G. It didn't make much sense to me.
So we don't... Cavendish.
Sorry?
Cavendish. There's no observed phenomena.
There is an observed phenomenon.
What was the observed phenomenon again? Sorry, just say it again one more time. The torsion bar twisting.
Yes.
So
that's how you accurately measure.
Rumpus, can we have a two-way conversation without you continually talking over me? Thank you.
I don't tend to.
Right. So the observed phenomena, which would be your dependent variable, is torsion bar twist.
Correct.
Right. And the independent variable is mass.
Well, there are three independent variables.
Right. I'll stop you right. Hold on. In an experiment, you have one independent variable, which is the sole variable. You're doing it again, Rumpus. One more chance, and you go.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right. I did interrupt you there. You're right on that one.
And you were incorrect. In an experiment, you're doing it again.
Sorry, I did it again. You're right. I did it again.
Yeah, shut up. In an experiment, you have an singular, independent, again singular, variable thing you will change. One.
Right. Okay. Can I go ahead now? Right. What you don't understand, I think, is that the force between two masses, there are three things involved. There's the two masses and the distance between them, and there's a constant, the gravitational constant. I actually have a screen grab actually here of that formula.
Sorry, you're just asserting that we have a gravitational constant now. Now, I understood that we were experimenting to find and validate gravity with the Cavendish experiment.
Right. If I can finish.
Hold on. Hold on. The gravitational constant is extracted from the results of the Cavendish experiment, isn't it?
You can extract this. You can.
Sorry,
do that.
Is it or was it not extracted from this experiment?
Well, the trouble is,
it's a yes or no answer. It's a yes or no answer.
It results in the product of the mass of the Earth and G.
So it's a yes. G was extracted from this experiment.
You can use it to do that, yes.
Yes, finally. Yes. Right. So we're not going to start with an assumption of G. This is the apparatus to, according to you, scientifically validate it. Now, as we have established, we have one independent variable. I know what your observed phenomena is, torsion bar twist, right? So your dependent variable is torsion bar twist. I need to know the independent variable, please. You still haven't given it me. You've told me there's 3.
Well, you can decide, because you could decide to change the radius.
No, that's not science.
Let me finish my sentence, Nathan.
Well, you're not describing science. I just need your independent variable.
You can decide which one to make independent. You can decide to change the mass or the distance between them.
Oh, well, then that's not an independent variable.
You can decide which you can choose.
No, you can't decide. Why do you keep asserting this? You are wrong. Either you
I'm
are
right.
You
let
are
me finish my sentence,
I'm now talking.
I will show you I'm
no,
right.
I'm now talking, Rumpus. I would like to talk, and you will now listen.
Okay.
You do not have multiple independent variables if you are performing the scientific method.
You can change the experiment to decide which one to pick.
Correct. So you can change it and have a different independent variable.
Yes, well done. You got there at last.
Hold, Rumpus. You can have a different independent variable, but then you would be using one and then the other separately.
Correct.
Hold, Rumpus, this is your last chance.
It's a simple stuff.
No, that means shut up.
Well, you haven't let me finish the sentence.
No, I am
this.
talking. So, you can start with your single, sole, independent variable, the cause, singular, of the effect. It is at this stage, hypothesis stage, a presumed cause. And in your hypothesis, you will either validate that as the singular, independent cause of the effect. And if it is invalidated, the singular, one, independent variable, then you move on to the next one on its own, singular. So yes.
Correct. Well done.
Right. Now I would like you to give me the singular independent variable for the Cavendish experiment.
Well, I could pick on one or two to play with. Like I've got the.
Just give me one. Listen. Give me one.
Okay. I can change the radius. Can be the one I'll pick on, because I could pick on 2 of the 3. One's the mass of the Earth. One's the mass of the object I've put on.
Sorry, you're still not answering me. Stop.
Let me finish my sentence.
No, you haven't answered my question. I've asked for one.
I'm going to tell you, but you won't let me finish my sentence.
Stop.
I'm finishing my sentence.
Right, I'm just going to kick you out, Rumpus. Stop.
Well, you don't let me finish my sentence.
It's because I'm asking you for one thing, and you're giving me 3. Stop.
Let me finish my sentence.
No, not until you stop and listen to me clarify what I'm asking you for. I want the next thing out of your mouth to be one variable. Just one.
Radius I'm going to pick on.
So, okay, in this hypothesis, if radius, then torsion bar twist is your hypothesis.
That's because, and this is what you don't understand.
Yes or no answer?
Yes a combination of
or
all those variables.
no answer.
And the particular independent variable to pick on is the radius, yes, but it's in the context of the other variables that you end up with a force.
Excuse me.
I've got the formula on the
I've
screen
got the
here.
hypothesis of if radius, then torsion bar. Sorry, you're talking over me again, Rumpus. Right. You're just going to have to go. You can't control your ejaculations.
Here's the formula for you.
You're doing it again while I'm telling you that I'm going to kick you out for doing it. You just can't seem to control yourself. Excuse me. I've asked for one. That would be science.
Yeah, I told you the answer.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Rumpus. You are intolerable because you have lost. You have got... No, you can't ask him anything. He's going because he can't help talk over me continually. So, I'll just point out the flaw. Rumpus wants there to be multiple variables. Rumpus has conceded. You only have one. You can have one and invalidate it and then go on to the next one, but he can't do that. That's not what the Cavendish is. It's not a valid scientific experiment. He needs multiple variables. He doesn't have an observed phenomena. His observed phenomena is not gravity. It's torsion bar twist. So at which stage in him detailing his hypothesis did he use the word gravity? He didn't. He used the word torsion bar twist. That was his observed phenomena.
There's a heck of a lot of variance here, but There's a heck of a lot of variance here, but
We're observing the phenomena of torsion bar twist. Yay, Rumpus, well done for proving the cause of the effect of torsion bar twist, you complete idiot. So you're saying, Cavendish, cause and effect gravity, science, right? No, you're causing the effect of a torsion bar twist, right? And what's your cause of it? According to Rumpus, radius. Yeah, that's what he said, because he's a dim-witted idiot with no scientific understanding. I had to take him through baby steps, using words like independent, singular, an, one, for him to finally concede that in science you have one. Now, he hasn't got one, he's got lots, so he doesn't have science. Unlucky, Rumpus. Your little sideshow circus freak experiment proves absolutely nothing. Unless you want to say it proves torsion bar twist. Wow, that's useful.
Cavendish experiment, pretty clever. Well done, Cavendish. Oh, score.